See, the Coelenterates is the unique characteristic features present only. Polymorphism is a unique characteristic feature which is present in the Coelenterata. When I'm explaining about the protozoan diseases, I have explained one particular protozoan parasite. See, what are all the parasite protozoanic diseases we have seen? Entamoeba histolytica, Trypanosoma gambians, and another one is mosquito, malaria, right? These three things we have been discussed. In that, which protozoan parasite exhibit polymorphism? Let me give you a hint. Amastigote, mastigote, crithidial form, trypanosomoid form, and obviously the answer is Trypanosoma gambians. Okay, these parasite can exhibit in different forms. Like in the same way, this Coelenterata can also exhibit in different forms. Let me explain clearly. Why gonads present in Anthozoa? Because medusa completely absent in man. Okay, let me explain. When I'm going to explain, there are different forms of polymorphism. In that you are going to understand completely. Okay, just wait for 5 minutes. In polymorphism, poly is many, morphous form. Okay, many form will be exhibited by this Coelenterata. When it comes to the polymorphism, many different forms have been explained by the organisms which is placed into the Coelenterata. Okay, see the same species in more than one type of individual which differ in the form and function, it is called as the polymorphism. More than one type of individuals, and each individual has their own form and function, that is said to be as the polymorphism. This ensures an efficient division of labor between the several individuals. See, in protozoa, that is, there has been a physiological, subcellular physiological division of labor. But in case of Coelenterata, this ensures an efficient division of labor. As it exhibits in different forms, each one is destined to do their own function. That is why it is said to be as the Coelenteratans have an efficient division of labor between the several individuals. The different individuals of a species may remain separate as represented by various casting termites, certain ants, Cuban snail. This is known as the genetic polymorphism. See, there also has another concept of genetic polymorphism. There also the genes, the genetic makeup will also exhibit some of the different forms. So it is said to be as a genetic polymorphism. Okay. In Coelenterata, the different individuals or zooids often get united in the form of a colony. Now, this polymorphism is an important characteristic features of an hydrozoan colonies. See, this also has been asked in the question. Which class of Coelenterata will exhibit this concept of polymorphism? Means hydrozoan colonies. This is a characteristic features of hydrozoan colonies. Okay, fine. Now, what are all the two different types of polymorphism? In hydrozoa, this hydrozoa is a hydrozoan exhibits the characteristic features of polymorphism. And what are all the two main types of individuals of the zooids? See, this polyp and medusa, it also has also been called as the zooids. Okay, so you have to know the technical term also. Polyps and medusa. See, this is said to be as a polyp and this is medusa. The polyp is how it looks like. It is a tube-like structure. Okay, and the mouth. This is the mouth, and the mouth is surrounded by what? Tentacles. Okay, other end is blind, usually attached. This other end doesn't open with any of the structure. The only function of this end is to attach with something. That is why it is called as blind. Other end is blind and usually attached with the pedal disc to the substratum. This is used to attach with the substratum. Now the medusa. Medusa has a bowl or the umbrella shaped body with marginal tentacles and mouth centrally located on the projection, which is called as the manubrium of the lower concave surface. This is the characteristic feature, structural unifications. See, looks like an umbrella body, and in both the medusa and the polyp, the same characteristics present as tentacles, obviously. Okay, now Although the polyp is typically sessile and the medusa is generally motile, there exists a homology between the two in their basic features. Okay, see, polyp is sessile, which means sedentary, they can't move. Medusa is motile. Okay, motile means they can move from one place to another, so it is said to be as a free living, free swimming. Of course, it is a sedentary and the free swimming. They exhibit some of the basic similarities between the polyp and medusa. Like tentacles will be present in both the polyp and medusa. Mouth will be present both in polyp and medusa. Gastrovascular cavity will be present in both polyp and medusa. So some of the similarities will be present in these two polyp and medusa. These two type of individuals. Okay. Now, what are all the importance of polymorphism? As I said, different forms of these polyp and medusa will exhibit. That is why it is called as the polymorphism. Okay. And what is ensure is this polymorphism. What is the main motto or the main vision of this polymorphism is to ensure the efficient division of labor. See, the polyp is concerned with feeding, protection, asexual reproduction. Just listen to me. What is his name? Shanti Karunya, right? You only asked the question. Why gonads is present in anthozoa? Because medusa is completely absent, but polyp is present. That is responsible for what? Asexual reproduction. Anyhow, the cells which is going to perform the reproduction is similar for both polyp and medusa. Only the mode of reproduction is different. Okay. See, feeding, protection, and asexual reproduction. Polyps is concerned with asexual reproduction, feeding mechanism, and protection. But in case of medusa, it is concerned only with the sexual reproduction. Okay. Fine. Next. See, uh, are you clear or what? Shakti Karunya, just tell me. See, in case of gonozoids and blastocells, they are concerned with asexual reproduction. For that, gonads are very much important for both asexual and sexual reproduction, right? Okay, hope you are clear. Now, see, patterns of polymorphism. This polymorphism varies greatly in different groups of hydrozoa, but the common point is this polymorphism is the characteristic features of what? Hydrozoa. First one is dimorphic, trimorphic, polymorphic. See, listen carefully. These are all the important concepts. Dimorphic means the simplest and commonest pattern of polymorphism is exhibited by many hydrozoan colonies like Obelia, Tubularia, Campanularia. Okay. These are the hydrozoan colonies will exhibit dimorphic. In case of dimorphic, as the name suggests, it is dimorphic. Two different forms have been seen here. In case it is a two types of zooids, what is the name of the zooids? Gastrozoids and the gonozoids. This gastrozoids is also called as the hydrants. This gonozoids is also called as the blastocytes. This gastrozoids or the hydrants, they are going to deal with the function feeding. Okay, with respect to taking of food, with respect to the finding the prey, this gastrozoids or hydrants are helpful. In case of gonozoids or the blastocytes, this asexual budding forming sexual medusa or the gonophores. These are also an important function of what? Gonozoids and blastocysts. Such this colonies exhibit only two types of individuals. As it is exhibiting only two types of individuals, this is said to be as dimorphism. Any doubts? Gonads are related to the sexual function, but from where these gonads are deriving? Only from these zooids. Okay? Gonozoids and blastocytes. These cells are going to give rise to gonads. In case of asexual reproduction, it is different. Sexual reproduction is different. Okay, from the gonozoids, it is destined to whether it is asexual reproduction or sexual reproduction. Good. Okay. Are you okay with this dimorphic? Is there any confusions with respect to this polymorphism? If you have any, just post it. Okay. Now, In case of dimorphic, only two types of zooids are present. Gastrozoids are hydrants, gonozoids are blastocysts. See, another name is also important. Okay, two different names. If you have one single name, it is okay. If you have two different names, gastrozoids or hydrants, if in the question they have hydrants, and if you know only the gastrozoid means you can lose the marks. So gastrozoids is also called as hydrants. Gonozoids is also called as the blastocells, and this can be asked in the matching question. Their zooids and their function. Okay, fine. Trimorphic, as the name suggests, it exhibits in three different types of individuals. Besides this gastrozoids and gonozoids, the third type is dactylozooids. And this dactylozoids is functionally they are non-feeding. They are not going to feed anything, because for feeding we have one type of individuals, that is gastrozoids or hydrants. For dactylozoids, it is only for the defensive polyps bearing the batteries of nematocysts. So what is the function of dactylocytes? It is involving in the defense function. Okay, that is said to be as a trimorphic. And what is their example? Plumillaria. Plumillaria will exhibit the trimorphic form. That's all about the trimorphic. And what is polymorphic means? This polymorphic means more than three types of individuals. If the Coelenterates exhibit more than three different types of, yes, gastro, digestion, gonad, sexual function, gastrozoids. Okay, so you are saying, oh, fine. Gastrozoids for digestion, gonozoids for reproduction. Okay, fine. Now, if the coelenterate exhibit more than three types, then it is said to be as a polymorphic form. Here, what is the example for this for organisms which exhibit polymorphic form? Means hydractinia. Hydractinia. You have to remember this name. Okay. And what are all the different types of zooids will be exhibited by in this hydractinia? Means gastrozoids, dactylozoids, tentaculozoids, skeletozoids, gonozoids. See, gastrozoids is for feeding, dactylozoids for protection, tentaculozoids for sensory cells, for sensory function. In case of skeletozoids, it is for the skeletal system, for the synthesis of chitinous skeleton system. Now, gonozoids is for reproductive individuals. It is bearing male or female gonophore sporosacs, or the medusa for the sexual reproduction. See, what are all the examples, extreme examples of polymorphism seen in pelagic or the swimming colonies of the order Siphonophora and the Chondrophora? You have to see these examples. You should not remember those examples. You should not need to memorize these examples, but just aware of these names. See, in question they have been asked Stephalia, Halistemes, Physalia, Porpedia. These are the organisms which is placed under which phylum. The question can also be asked like that. So you have to aware of the technical term, okay, so that it will be easy for you to understand when they write the question which organism is placed in a which phylum. If they ask corals means it is there in the syllabus, so you came to know this corals is placed in a Coelenterata. If they ask about diphiles, Halistemes, Stephalia, Physalia means you should not know. If you didn't aware of these names, which is comes under the Coelenterates, definitely you're going to lose the question. That is why aware of these names, these technical terms, which is these are all the organisms which is placed under the Coelenterata means it will be easy for you to answer those questions when it comes to when they ask in the questions. As in hydractinia, both polypoid and medusoid individuals specialized for various functions occurs in the same colony. Which means what? This polyp and medusa which is present in the same individual. Okay, so as this polyp and medusa present in the same individual, this polyp is responsible for asexual reproduction. This medusa is responsible for the sexual reproduction. Right? So that is why this Hydractina is a perfect example for polymorphic individuals. Clear? Fine. And the most important fact is polymorphism reaches its peak in which order? Siphonophora order. Okay, polymorphism, the most, just write down in your notebook. This polymorphism reaches its peaks in Siphonophora, which means what? The polymorphism has been seen very well in the Siphonophora. Now, see, Shanti Karanya, if you have any doubts regarding the gonophores and gonozooids means, let me clear you once again. Modification of polyps and modification of medusa. See, polyps can be modified into these three types. This medusa can be modified into these four types. Okay, see here it is gonozooid, here it is gonophore. It is a reproductive polyp which produces sexual medusae or the gonophores. From this point, what you are going to understand means this polyp is the one gives rise to the medusa. Clear? This polyp is the one going to give rise to, or asexual polypoid individuals will give rise to or will develop into sexual medusoid stage. Clear? Okay. Fine. The first thing is modification of polyp. The polyp has been modified into first thing gastrozooid. Gastrozooid is concerned with the function feeding. And this for feeding, it has to develop a structure called the mouth and the long tentacle. Tentacle is for to capture the prey. Okay, so it needs a long tentacle, and to get inside the body, it needs a structure called the mouth. So gastrozooid or a feeding polyp, they are going to develop a structure called mouth and a long tentacle. These are the one of the modification of the polyp. And the second one is dactylozooid. And this dactylozooid, as I have mentioned previously, this is concerned with the protection function, which means what? Nematocyst. Okay, is going protection polyp without mouth. For protection, there is no need of mouth, but for protection, it needs a basal tentacle. Okay, next, the polyps has also modified into gonozooid. Gonozooid, it is also called as a reproductive polyp. There is a theory which have been proving that this polyp is the one giving rise to the medusa. Okay, this gonozooid or the reproductive polyp which produces sexual medusae or the gonophores. Clear? Now, the modification of medusa. How medusa is going to modify means the first one nectophore. Nectophore or nectocalyx or the swimming zooid. This nectophore is concerning with the function swimming. That is why this medusa is called as the free swimming modification, free swimming type of individual. Okay, and what is responsible for the function of swimming is nectophore or the nectocalyx or the swimming zooid with a muscular bell without manubrium or tentacles. Okay, and this pneumatophore is float as a bladder-like medusa filled with a secreted gas. Because of this pneumatophore, it can be move very lightly. Okay, because this is the vacuum-like structure which is filled with the gas. Okay, that is said to be as the pneumatophore. Now, phyllozoid, it is also called as a bract. How it looks like means leaf-like and studded with a nematocyst serving for the protection of other zooids. See, this phyllozoid and the nectophore, both responsible for the sorry, dactylozoid and the phyllozoid, both for the protection function. But what is the difference? This phyllozoid serving the protection for this other zooids. That is nothing but gonophore, pneumatophore, nectophore, gonozoid, dactylozoid, gastrozoid. For all these zooid, this phyllozoid acts as a protective carrier. Okay, fine. Next, gonophore. This gonophore bearing the gonads, which may be either male producing sperm or the female producing the ova. Okay, this is the modification of the polyp. The question can be asked, what are all the modifications of polyp and what are all the modifications of medusa? And another question is, which is zooid is responsible for which function? For example, let me explain how to read this slide. See, in case of polyp, what are all the modifications? Gastrozoid, dactylozoid, and gonozoid. For gastrozoid, it is responsible for digestion function. Dactylozoid for the protection function. Gonozoid for the reproduction function. In case of gastrozoid, what is the structure they have been responsible to perform the respective function? Mouth and the long tentacle. So, what is their modification? What is their purpose? And what is their structure they are developing to fulfill their function? So, everything is important. Like in the same way, you have to read all these things. Now, highly modified polymorphism. Highly modified polymorphism. Let me ask you a simple question. Just now I have explained. In polymorphism, can reaches its peaks in which of the following order? In which order the polymorphism has been seen very clearly? Lalita, Shanti Karanya, explain for this question. Are you in the class or what? Polymorphism reaches its peaks in which order? Under the Coelenterates. Okay. Okay, see, I have explained polymorphism reaches its peaks in the Siphonophora order. Okay, this is an important statement. Okay, don't forget. Highly modified polymorphism in order Siphonophora. In the order Siphonophora, what are all the organisms? Diphys, Halistemia, Stephalia, Physalia, zooids are so much modified that they appear like organs of a single body rather than the individuals of a colony. They are most pelagic in habitat. Okay, in Physalia, the zooids are in units, which is called as cormidia, which bear gastrozoids, which bear dactylozoids, which bear the gonozoids. In Diphys, it has the nectophores. In Vellala and Porpita, it has gastrozoids, gonozoids, and dactylozoids. See, these are all the highly developed polymorphism. Just look at the picture. This is the nematophore. Nematophore is responsible for the, it is helps in the motion. Okay, as Medusa is free swimming, this nematophore is helping to lift the body of the organism because in the nematophore, inside it, it has been filled with the secretory gases. Okay, now this is the swimming well, Cenosarchial stalk, bract, gonophore, dactylozoid, gastrozoid. These are all the structure. These are all the individuals which has been present in the colony. Okay, they exhibited different types of individuals, and this bract is destined to do certain function. This gonophore has different function. Dactylophore has different function. Gastrozoid have been different function. But all these structure has been placed in the same organism, same colony. That is why it is said to be as a polymorphism. Okay, fine. Now, next, origins of polymorphism. See, there are two theories to be explained how the polymorphism has been origined in the Coelenterates. First one is polyorgan theory, and the second one is polyperson theory, and the third one is medusome theory. In polyorgan theory, it is proposed by Huxley, Eschwald, Metchnikoff, Muller. These are all the scientists put forth the polyorgan theory. But according to this theory, individuals of a colony are actually organs of medusoid organ. They have been multiplied and migrated from primitive positions to the current evolved positions. What this theory is suggesting means this medusa, we have studied these two types of polyp and medusa, we have studied these two types of individuals. But what this polyorgan theory is explaining means different types of organs, that is dactylozooid and what are all the modifications we have seen before, all are the organs of this medusoid stage. And this medusoid stage have been migrated from their primitive position, that is polyp, have been migrated from the polyp to the current evolved position, that is medusa. Okay, they are suggesting that these are the organs of medusa only. They didn't explain anything about the polyp. Instead of the polyp, they have explained the primitive positions. Okay, in polyp person theory, they have been proposed by Leucart, Oaked, Gegenbar, Kolliker, Klaus. They have been explained, but later it is strongly supported by Ernest Haeckel, Balfour, and Sedgwick. Okay, according to this theory, the colony is not a single individual but various parts of the colony or modified individuals which have changed their structure due to division of labor. They have all been modified from the primitive zooid, which was the polyp. What does the polyp person theory mean? From the polyp, this polyp gives rise to the medusa. This is the primitive zooid. This is the developed zooid. Like that, they have explained. From in the polyp person theory, they have explained this polyp is gives rise to the medusa. That is said in this theory, polyperson theory. Okay. In medicine theory, it was put forth by the Ernest Haeckel. Okay, as a compromise between the above theories. The theory says that siphonophore larva formed from the gastrula was a medusoid individual from which the zooids or persons appeared by the budding from the subumbrella. What they are saying again, they are saying this primitive structure is nothing but the polyp, and from this polyp this sub-umbrella shape medusa will be developed. See, the naming is different. In polyorgan theory, they have explained all the organs seen in the structure seen above, or they are the organs of medusa. Okay, as it exhibits different types of individuals, they are said to be that polymorphism. Okay, this medusa has gastrozooid, dactylozooid, gonozooid, nematophore, nectophore. These are all the organs of medusa. It is explained by the polyorgan theory, which means what? Here what they have explained is primitive positions to current evolved positions. They didn't explain anything about the polyp, but here in person theory, this primitive zooid is nothing but the polyp. They have said this primitive positions is nothing but the polyp. Now, in this medusoid theory, this primitive positions or the polyp gives rise to the medusoid stage, and this primitive stage is following the asexual type of reproduction, and this medusoid stage is following the asexual type of reproduction. That is what explained in this theory. That's all about the polymorphism. Any doubts, Lalita? Any doubts for you too? Shall we continue with corals? What I have to explain? Theory? Meduso. Okay, let me explain the theory once again. Polyorgan. There are two theories to explain the origin of polymorphism in coelenterates. One is polyorgan theory and polyperson theory. This theory was proposed by Huxley. See, scientist names will leave that, okay? Here, according to which individuals of a colony are actually an organs of medusoid individuals, which have multiplied and migrated from their primitive positions to the current evolved positions. Here, what are all the things they have explained in these? See, this gastrozooid, dactylozooid, gonozooid, everything, nectophore, pneumatophore, phyllozoid, gonophore, everything will be the parts of medusa. Okay, that is called as the poly-organ theory. Many organs is seen in the medusa. 1 minute. Sorry, sorry for the interruption. Not polyp. What not polyp? Here they didn't explain anything. Okay, not okay, they didn't mention anything about polyp. Okay, what they are saying is they are the organs of medusa. They didn't explain anything about the polyp. Okay, they just said the primitive positions together comprises the organs. All the organs will comprise the current evolved positions, which means medusa. Clear? Now medusa will has it possess the different structures to swim. Okay, nematophore, like nematophore, nectophore, it is free swimming. It is migrated from one place to another. So from initial colony they prefer to they going to develop its own colony. Okay, see, all the different organs will comprise as this individual characters, this individual structures, gastrozoid, dactylo, gono, necto. All these are the organs of the medusa. Like that, they have been explained. Okay, poly-organ theory. Poly-person theory means this colony is not a single individual, but various parts of the colony are modified individuals which have changed the structure due to division of labor. See, these are all the theory which has been put forth to prove that this salient data has different type of individuals. Okay, so what they have been anyhow they have find out that this salient data has exhibited different individual. How they are proving, that is the theory. See, this not a single individual. This is not a single individual. We know that this is not a single individual. They are going to give different types of forms, different types of individuals. But various parts of the colony are modified individuals. See how they are explaining means we have studied polyp and medusa are the two different types of coelenterates. Okay, only polyp and medusa. But polyp is modified into gastrozoid, polyp is modified to dactylozoid, and this polyp is modified to the gonozoid. Like in the same way, this medusoid is modified to nectophore, and medusa is modified to nematophore, phyllozoid, and gonophore. That is what here explained. But various parts are modified individuals which change their structure due to the division of labor. Okay, it is changed into the different forms, and dactylozoid is responsible for production function, and gastrozoid is responsible for the digestion function, gonozoid is responsible for the reproduction function. That is why they have been explaining modified individuals. They are going to change their structure, and based on their structure they are going to do different function. Let me explain you clearly. See, this polyp is modified into gastrozoid, right? And this gastrozoid is responsible for digestion function, for feeding. Okay, to feeding, what structures they are developing? Mouth and the tentacle. Okay, but polyp is the one going to give rise to this gastrodactylos gono. But based on their function, they're developing their structure. Okay, that is what explaining here polymorphism theory. Okay, they have all modified form the primitive zooid which was a polyp. They are explaining only about the polyp. Okay, this is the primitive zooid which was a polyp. Okay, here they talk about the medusa, here they talk about the polyp. But here, this is the neutral theory, that is medosome theory, which was put forth by the Haeckel. What he is saying is, from polyp, this medusa it is evolving. This is the structure. From the asexual polyp, the sexual medusa will be developing. Okay? From the zooid, the theory says that siphonophore larva formed from the gastrula was a medusoid individual. See, siphonophore larva formed from the gastrula was a medusoid individual, which means what? The siphonophore is a medusoid individual which is formed from the gastrula, which is nothing but a polyp, from which zooids are persons appeared by budding from the subumbrella. This is umbrella, this is subumbrella, which means what? From polyp, this medusa has been evolving. Clear? Are you clear, Lalita? Medosome is clear? Just tell me. Or let me explain once again. Good. Okay, fine. That's all about the polymorphism. Okay. There is no questions attached here. Okay, let me give, that's all about we have completed today general characteristics, classification and the polymorphism. Okay, see, the leftover part is alternation of generation, coral formation and ctenophora. And we also studied about the difference between the ctenophora, Nidaria and the Coelenterata. Coelenterata is what? The phylum Nidaria and the ctenophora together we can call as the ctenophora. Sorry, Coelenterata. And you have to remember what is the difference between the Nidaria and the ctenophora. This is very much important because it is mentioned in your syllabus. Now, the only leftover part is metagenesis and coral formation. Now, I am going to explain what is metagenesis. Okay, tomorrow we'll finish the coral formation and tomorrow definitely there is a test for you. Okay, kindly revise the PPT and come. After finishing the coral formation, I'm going to conduct a test. If we finish that, 3 topics, that is one unit will be completed and protozoa, porifera and coelenterata will be completed. Okay, metagenesis rates. Okay. Alternation of generation and metagenesis. Now, it may be defined as a phenomenon whereby in the life history of an organism, a diploid asexual phase and the haploid sexual phase regularly alternate with each other. Why asexual phase is said to be as a diploid and why this haploid sexual phase? Haploid sexual phase, sexual phase is said to be as a haploid. Any idea? Asexual phase is said to be as a diploid and the sexual phase is said to be as a haploid. In sexual phase, we have studied male will produce the sperm, which is an N. Female will produce the ovum, which is an N. They two are going to form, they are two going to fuse. Okay, and only after the fertilization, that is fusion of this male gamete and female gamete, they are going to give rise to the zygote, that is 2N. So this is what happening in the sexual reproduction. As it produces the haploid gamete, this is said to be as the haploid sexual phase. Clear? And why it is said to be as the diploid sexual phase means there is no need of female gamete, male gamete like that. One individual, that is 2N. Initially, it was 2N. Clear? And that 2N that is diploid in nature will exactly gives rise to again the 2N. Okay, because there is no fertilization happens here like in the sexual reproduction. In sexual reproduction, 1N from the male gamete, 1N from the female gamete, they both gives rise to the zygote, which is 2N. But there is no involvement of another individual with respect to this asexual reproduction just by splitting, that is fission, either by fission or by budding. Just by splitting, it gives rise to an young ones, which is in diploid in nature. That is why this asexual is said to be as the diploid and the sexual reproduction is said to be as the haploid. This is the basic difference. Okay. Now come back to the alternation of generation. The life history of an organism, a diploid asexual phase and the haploid sexual phase regularly alternate with each other. Okay, this has been altered. In their life cycle, this asexual phase and sexual phase will be alternating with each other. That is why it is called as the alternation of generation. This type of true alternation of generation is common among plants. See, this will be the questionable area. Of course, the alternation of generation or metagenesis is seen in the coelenterates, but it is not a well-developed or a complete alternation of generations. Where the complete or the true alternation of generation has been seen is, it is common among the plants. Okay, like mosses. Mosses means what? Bryophytes. Ferns means what? Pteridophytes. Wherein an asexual diploid sporophytic and a sexual haploid generations altern regularly in their life cycle. In plants, what is a true alternation of generation means? See, the asexual diploid sporophytic. Okay, asexual, which is diploid, we know that, and it is sporophytic, and a sexual haploid gametophytic. Because why it is said to be as a gametophytic? Because male gamete and female gamete will be involving here. That is why it is said to be as the sexual haploid gametophytic. In case of asexual, it is diploid and it is sporophytic. And these two types of life cycle will be alternate regularly throughout their life cycle. That is said to be as the true alternation of generation. Okay, and this true alternation of generation will be seen among the plants. In fern, that is pteridophytes, the plant diploid sporophytic. Diploid saprophytic produces the haploid spores, which develops into a flat, green, small, heart-shaped haploid gametophytes. They produce the haploid ova and the sperm. After fertilization, they give rise to a new diploid sporocyte, thus completing the one life cycle. Right? In obelia, see, this is up to the plants. What you have to remember is what is meant by alternation of generation, which means what? The alternation of the asexual and the sexual phase throughout their life cycle is said to be as the alternation of generation, and the true alternation of generation is seen among the plants. Okay, these two things is very important. Okay, now in obelia, come back to the coelenterata. In obelia, the life cycle includes two clearly defined phases. One is asexual and the sexual reproduction. That is what? Polyploid and the pelagic medusa phase. Because polyploid is asexual reproduction and medusa is the sexual reproduction. Okay. Now, hydroid colony has no gonads. In hydroid colonies, there is no structure called gonads and reproduces by the asexual budding to give rise to the medusa. See, in hydroid colony, there is no gonads is present there. If there is no gonads, there is no possibility for the sexual reproduction. So it reproduced by the asexual, that too by the method of budding to give rise to the medusa. See here, by to produce this asexual reproduction, just listen me very carefully. It is a critical area where you have to understand very clearly. See, there is no gonads, right? If there is no gonads, there is no sexual reproduction is possible. So it has to definitely reproduce by only asexual method. In asexual method, there is two types of asexual method in Coelenterata. One is fission and budding, but in case of hydroid colony, they prefer budding. Okay, anyhow, that is an asexual reproduction. They gives rise to what? Medusa. We have studied Medusa is a what type of reproduction seen in medusa? Sexual reproduction is seen in medusa. So what you have to understand is, to produce this medusa which is going to perform the sexual reproduction, this medusa will be produced by asexual budding method. Are you clear or not? Just tell me. If you didn't clear, just tell me now itself. Quick. If you know this point clearly means only then we have to move at the next point. Good. What about the other? What, no ma'am? No, not clear or okay, fine. Let me explain you once again. See, what we have studied, what is asexual reproduction? The alternation between the asexual reproduction and the sexual reproduction. The sexual reproduction will be followed by asexual, and the asexual is again followed by the sexual reproduction, like that. This alternation between these two phases is said to be as the alternation of generation. Okay, but true alternation of generation will be seen only in the plants. But coming back to the obelia, see, in case of true alternation of generation, what is the characteristic features means? It has to be asexual and the sexual. In case of asexual, it has to be diploid and sporophytic. Sporophytic, we know spores, forming the spores is a perfect asexual reproduction mechanism. Okay, asexual, diploid and saprophytic. Now, asexual, haploid and the gametophytic because of the involvement of male gamete and the female gamete. Sexual, haploid and the gametophytic. And these two structure or these two type of reproduction mechanism alternating regularly in their life cycle. This is said to be as an alternation of generation. This is the explanation of alternation of generation. But what in Coelenterates is happened? Why Coelenterates is said to be as, of course, this Coelenterates is said to be as it following an alternation of generation, but it is not a true alternation of generation. Why is it so? And the reason behind that is, let me explain in you in this point. No gonads is present in the hydroid colony. As it has no gonads is present in the hydroid colony, they has to reproduce by the asexual reproduction mechanism, that too by budding. Okay. See, we have studied two different forms in the coelenterata. One is polyp and the medusa. This polyp is the one going to perform the asexual reproduction. This medusa is going to perform the sexual reproduction. But how this medusa is forming? Okay, how this medusa is forming? This medusa is forming by the asexual reproduction mechanism. By this asexual reproduction mechanism, this medusa is forming, but that is why in medusome theory, what the scientists have been explaining is from polyp, this medusa has been evolved. Clear? From polyp, this polyp is the one is going to perform the asexual reproduction method. As a result of this asexual reproduction method, this medusa is going to form, and this medusa is the one going to perform the sexual reproduction. Clear? Clear now? That is what explaining here. This hydra colony has no gonads and reproduce by asexual reproduction method by budding to gives rise to other medusa. On the other hand, the medusa reproduce exclusively the sexual method gives rise to new hydroid colonies. Ultimately, this medusa is the one going to form the new colonies. But how this medusa is going to form? This medusa is formed by the asexual reproduction mechanism formed by the polyp. Clear? Now, this fact apparently seems to have gives rise to an idea of alternation of generation. So now what we have seen in the coelenterata means both asexual also is happening here. That is budding is also happening here and the sexual reproduction is also happening here. That is why both asexual reproduction and the sexual reproduction seen in the coelenterata. So this is also comes under the mechanism alternation of generation. But the true alternation of generation is asexual diploid saprophytic is one cycle. And the next cycle is sexual haploid gametophytic is another cycle. This one cycle and the another cycle is alternating with each other. That is said to be as a true alternation of generation. But here, the end product of asexual reproduction mechanism, asexual reproduction is medusa. What is it? The end product of asexual reproduction is medusa, and this medusa is the one going to going to perform the sexual reproduction. That is why it comes under the alternation of generation. So it is also called as a metagenesis. In coelenterates, in which an asexual polyploid generation appears to alternate regularly with the sexual medusoid generation. Okay, but in obelia, this medusoid phase does not represent a true haploid sexual generation because medusa arises from the blastocyle by the process of asexual budding. This is why I have explained in obelia, hydroid colony in obelia, this medusa has been arised from the asexual budding. So it is not a true haploid sexual, it is not a true alternation of generation. It implies what it implies means generally in sexual reproduction, it has to produce what? Haploid zooid. But this medusa, as it is a result of the asexual budding, this medusa is also has the diploid zooid. See what I have explained initially. In case of sexual reproduction, male has to give one yen, male has to give one yen, female has to give one yen, and they are going to fuse. As a result of fertilization, they gives rise to zygote. This 2n now only it possesses zygote is in the diploid in nature, but the male gametes are haploid in nature. But what is in case of medusa? As it is the result of asexual budding, this medusa is also a diploid zooid. That is why Coelenterata, particularly obelia, it is not a true alternation of generation. But anyhow, this both asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction is seen in one particular individual. So it is said to be as it can also show alternation of generation or metagenesis. But the medusa too is a diploid zooid. This is why it is not a complete, it is not a true alternation of generation. Clear? Sex cells do not originate in medusa, but in the epidermis of blastocyle. This is also an important from where the sex cells is originating from the blastocyle. From there, they migrate to the gonads of the medusa. So this is also the reason why it is not a true alternation of generation. In case of true alternation of generation, that medusa is the one going to gives rise to a sex cells. But here this sex cells is not originated in medusa but instead of the blastocyte. That is why gonozoids is the modification of polyp. Okay, you have asked me one question, right? What is that question? Gas what is that? Gonads related to sexual function, but why this it is a character? Why this medusa is completely absent in answers words? Something you like that? You asked me like that a question. But why? Because this blastocyle is the one gives rise to the gonads. It is involved in both polyp and medusa. It is involved in both asexual and sexual reproduction. Okay, so it is not a complete or a true alternation of generation. We can say this as a pseudo alternation of generation. Sex cells is not originate in medusa, but instead it is originate from the blastocyte. From the blastocyte, it has been moved to the gonads of the medusa. If it is a true alternation of generation, the sex cells has to be originate in medusa. Okay, this is also an important point. These facts shows that medusa does not represent the sexual generation. It is simply a free-swimming diploid zooid specialized for the dispersal of gametes for sedentary hydroid colony. As it is a free-swimming, it is helpful in the dispersal of gametes. As it is involved in the dispersal of gametes, it is said to be as the sexual reproduction has been performed by the medusa. Clear? In fact, the so-called sexual generation in obelia is indistinct and represented by the haploid gametes only. Thus, it clearly impossible to differentiate the sexual and the asexual reproduction in the obelia. It is not completely well understand about the sexual and asexual generation. That is why, of course, it is said to be as the it is comes under the alternation of generation, but not true alternation of generation. Now, asexual hydroid colony and the sexual medusa merely represent a different phases or zooids. For example, an example of polymorphism, and belong to the single diploid generation, so that a true alternation of generation cannot be said occur in the obelia. And what are all the reasons I have explained here? Why it is not a true alternation of generation. In Coelenterates, particularly obelia, a regular alternation between fixed asexual hydroid and the free swimming medusoid phases, both of which are diploid. What is it? Both are diploid. In case of asexual, it has to be diploid. In case of medusoid sexual reproduction, it has to be haploid. Then only it is said to be true alternation of generation. But from where this medusa has been developed? From the asexual budding method. As it is a result of asexual budding method, definitely it is in diploid in nature. So both are diploid in nature. Okay, so it is not a true alternation of generation, but anyhow, both type of asexual and sexual reproduction seen in here, it is said to be as the alternation of generation. But according to Hyman, the concept of metagenesis should be discarded as there are no haploid and diploid generation in coelenterates. According to this view, Medusa is regarded to be completely evolved from the coelenterate, while polyp is probably a persistent larval stage. What they are saying is polyp is the larval stages of the Medusa. Or who is saying that? Hyman. Hyman is saying polyp is the larval stages and Medusa is the adult stage. Like that they are saying. This is one of the idea saying by the scientist. Just don't confuse with the above factual informations. Okay. Any doubts with respect to this alternation of generation? If you have any doubt means you can ask me now. Tomorrow we have a test, so you can clear all of your doubts now itself. What about Lalita? Are you clear? Okay, be prepared for the test. Tomorrow we are going to complete the coral formation and some of the important things about obelia. Okay, be prepared for the test. If not, I couldn't complete by tomorrow means to the test will be postponed to day after tomorrow. But anyhow, I'm going to complete by today, tomorrow itself. Last 15 to 20 minutes is enough for the test. So please be prepared with the PPT. Okay, fine. Thank you. Bye tomorrow at the same time. See you tomorrow. Bye.